She didn't want to tell you, but it's been happening for months now.
Why?
She wanted me. I wanted her. Simple as that.
In its place. Chicago was ours. Every weekend we'd walk down Michigan Avenue, grabbing coffee, laughing, making plans. Everything was right. Or so I thought. We were at a party at Derek's place that night. He was one of my old college buddies, a guy you'd never expect to have a dark side. Charming, always the life of the party. Sophie and I had been together for over 2 years now, and I trusted her with everything. Khloe was there too, Sophie's best friend. She was the kind of person who could disappear in a room full of noise, always blending in, never causing trouble. I'd known Khloe for as long as I'd known Sophie, but lately, there was something off about her. I didn't give it much thought though. She was just Sophie's best friend, right? "Hey Ethan," Derek called, snapping me out of my thoughts. "You good, man?" "Yeah, just zoning out a little," I replied, smiling and taking a sip of my drink. But there was a tightness in my chest, an itch I couldn't scratch. I noticed Sophie across the room talking to Derek, laughing too loud, her hand on his shoulder in a way that didn't feel right. It was one of those little things you try to ignore, but deep down, you know it's the kind of thing that's too casual, too familiar. The way she looked at him made my stomach twist. I pulled myself together, brushing it off. I didn't want to be that guy, the jealous boyfriend, the one who overreacts. But as the night went on, I couldn't shake the feeling. Sophie wasn't acting like herself, and Derek was leaning in just a bit too close. "Ethan, come dance," Sophie shouted across the room. Her voice was light, playful. It should have sounded normal, but it felt distant, almost rehearsed. I put my drink down and walked over to her, forcing a smile. "Yeah, let's go." As we danced, I kept glancing at Derek. Something in the back of my mind kept telling me there was something wrong, but I didn't want to be paranoid. Maybe it was just me overthinking things, right? Sophie wasn't that kind of person. Or at least I thought she wasn't. The music shifted to something slower and we drifted to the side of the room. I caught Khloe's eye as I was about to speak to Sophie. She looked at me with something in her eyes, almost pity, but I didn't know why. Sophie laughed and spun around, her hands flitting around in the air like she was trying to lose herself in the music. But I caught it. The way Derek was looking at her. His eyes weren't friendly. They were hungry, and I felt it in my gut like something was unraveling. My heart raced. "Hey, I'm gonna step out for a minute." "Need some air," I told Sophie. She blinked at me, confused. "You sure?" "Yeah. Just too hot in here." I stepped outside, breathing in the cool night air, trying to steady my thoughts. I didn't know why I felt so unsettled. I was standing by the side of the building when I saw Derek walk out, looking around like he was making sure no one could see him. He spotted me and smirked, that damn smirk of his, the one that had always pissed me off. He walked toward me and something told me I should walk away, but I didn't. I stood my ground. "What's up, man?" Derek asked, casually leaning against the wall next to me. "Nothing, just needed a break," I muttered, trying to play it cool. He looked at me for a long moment, his eyes flicking to the door behind me. Then he dropped his voice, leaning in a little closer. "I don't think you know what's going on inside, Ethan," he said, almost as if he were savoring it. "But maybe you should. Sophie and we've been seeing each other for a while now." My brain stuttered. The words didn't make sense at first, bouncing off the inside of my skull, echoing in the empty space. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. "What?" I choked out. Derek shrugged, looking down at the ground as if it were no big deal. "Yeah. She didn't want to tell you, but it's been happening for months now. She's been sneaking around behind your back. You know how it is." It felt like the world tilted sideways. I couldn't catch my breath. Every thought I had, every moment I thought I knew her, came crashing down around me. The anger bubbled up, but underneath it, something darker started to rise. Betrayal. It gnawed at me. "Why?" I asked, the word barely leaving my lips. Derek looked me in the eye, smirking again. "She wanted me. I wanted her. Simple as that." I didn't know what to do. Everything I thought I knew about my life had just shattered. I could feel my fists clenching, but I didn't move. What was the point? I wasn't going to fight him. Not over this. Not over her. "You're a piece of shit," I muttered under my breath, finally pushing away from him and walking toward the back door. I needed to get away. I needed to leave. When I got back inside, Sophie was talking to Khloe near the bar. She didn't even notice me standing there, the anger seething in my chest. How could she? How could she do this to me? Khloe caught my eye. Her expression was unreadable, but I saw the flicker of guilt, maybe even pity. I turned and walked out the door, the weight of everything crashing down on me. My world was falling apart and there was no stopping it. Sophie, Derek, the life I thought I had, gone. I didn't even care anymore. Something in me had snapped, and I wasn't going to sit back and let this be the end of my story. This was just the beginning. I couldn't believe it. I thought maybe I had misunderstood something, but as the words sank in, the cold truth hit me like a brick. Derek and Sophie, together behind my back. My stomach twisted. I had to confront them right here, right now. I stormed into the living room, where Sophie was sitting on the couch, her laughter hanging in the air like a haunting echo. Derek was leaning against the wall, watching us, his smug smile never leaving his face. I could feel my hands shaking, but I forced myself to speak. "Sophie," I said, my voice rougher than I intended. "Tell me it's not true." She froze, her smile fading as she looked at me with wide eyes. "Ethan." "No," I cut her off, taking a step closer. "Just tell me. Tell me you weren't messing around with Derek behind my back." Sophie bit her lip, her eyes shifting between Derek and me. "It's not what you think, Ethan. It was a mistake. A huge mistake." "A mistake?" My mind reeled as I tried to make sense of her words. "A mistake," I repeated, louder now, my voice cracking. "You think I'm stupid? You think I can just brush this off as some mistake?" She stood up, walking toward me with a hesitant look in her eyes. "Ethan, I never meant for it to happen like this. I didn't want to hurt you." "Then why the hell did you do it?" The anger, the hurt, it was all coming out now, bubbling over. "You betrayed me, Sophie. You lied to my face." Her eyes filled with guilt, but there was something else, something deeper that I didn't want to see. "I was confused," she said, her voice softer. "Derek and I." "Derek and you?" I spat, cutting her off. "You're really going to stand here and make excuses for him?" I turned to Derek, my fists clenched by my sides. "You've got some nerve, man." Derek didn't even flinch. He just stood there, a smug grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Ethan, come on. You knew this was coming. You saw the way she looked at me." His tone was annoyingly calm. "She wanted this. You just didn't see it." "Shut up, Derek." I could feel my pulse racing, my mind clouded with anger. The image of Sophie's hands on him, laughing with him, it all felt like a punch to the gut. I turned back to her, my eyes burning. "How long, Sophie? How long have you been hiding this from me?" She bit her lip again, her eyes flickering with shame. "It wasn't planned. I didn't want to hurt you, but it just happened. Just happened." I repeated, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "You don't just accidentally fall for someone. You don't just accidentally cheat on someone." "I didn't know what I was doing," she said, her voice breaking as if she were trying to hold back tears. "I was confused, okay? I felt lost." I shook my head, the pain twisting like a knife in my chest. "You're not lost, Sophie. You're just selfish." Sophie took a step forward, her voice softer now, but the guilt was there. "Ethan, please. You have to understand, I never meant to hurt you." "Save it," I snapped, cutting her off. "You've said enough." I turned to walk away, my mind spinning. I couldn't be here anymore. I couldn't stand to hear her excuses. The trust one had in her, the trust one thought we built, was shattered. She had betrayed me, and no amount of apologies was going to fix that. "Please," Sophie said, her voice desperate as I moved toward the door. "Ethan, don't walk away. Let's talk about this. We can fix it." I stopped in my tracks, but I didn't turn around. My heart was pounding in my chest. "No. You don't get to fix this," I said, my voice low, filled with cold finality. "You broke it, and you're not the one who's going to fix it." I stepped out into the hallway, slamming the door behind me. The cold air hit my face, but it didn't do anything to numb the feeling inside. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door, trying to make sense of everything. I had trusted Sophie with everything. My heart, my time, my future. And she threw it all away for Derek. My hands clenched into fists at my sides as my stomach churned. I couldn't let this go. I couldn't just walk away and let her get away with it. That's when I felt her. Khloe. She was standing a few feet behind me, her presence calm but comforting. I didn't even need to turn around to know she was there. "Ethan?" Khloe's voice was soft, almost like she was afraid to break the silence. I swallowed hard, fighting to keep my composure. "She betrayed me," I said, my voice raw. "I know," Khloe said. Her voice was steady, strong. "I'm sorry. But you're not alone in this, okay?" I finally turned to look at her, and in that moment I saw something in Khloe's eyes. Something real, something pure. She was standing there, not as Sophie's best friend, but as my friend. And for the first time tonight, I felt like I wasn't completely broken. "Thanks, Khloe," I muttered, my voice thick with emotion. "I've got you," she said, a simple statement that somehow felt like a promise. I took a deep breath, feeling a slight shift inside me. Maybe this was it. Maybe it was time to make them regret this. Time to make Sophie feel the pain she had caused me. I wasn't just going to stand by and let this happen. Not again. I'll make her regret this, I said quietly, more to myself than to Khloe. Khloe nodded, her eyes full of understanding. Whatever you need, I'm here. The flight to New York felt like a blur. I don't remember much of it. The soft hum of the plane's engines, the endless sea of clouds. None of it mattered. My mind was racing. I could still hear Sophie's voice, her words, her apologies. But I couldn't stand to be in Chicago anymore. Not with her face haunting me everywhere I went. Not with Derek's smug grin replaying in my mind. I'd made the decision before I even boarded the plane. I needed a fresh start, and New York was as good a place as any. I landed late in the evening, the lights of the city blinking below me like stars that I would never reach. It felt empty but strangely comforting. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. I threw my bag into the back of the cab and settled into the seat, trying to ignore the gnawing pain in my chest. The city felt like an escape. But I knew it wasn't going to fix me. Nothing would. A few days passed before I saw Khloe again. She'd been calling me constantly, but I'd been avoiding her. I wasn't ready to deal with anyone, least of all her. But she was persistent. There was something about her that felt real, something I couldn't ignore. It was late afternoon when she showed up at my door. She looked different, softer, more determined. I hadn't seen her since the night of the confrontation with Sophie. The air between us felt thick, like it was holding 1,000 unspoken words. I wasn't sure what she was doing here, but part of me knew she wasn't going to let this go until we talked. I opened the door, and there she was, standing there like she had all the answers to the mess I'd made of my life. She smiled, but there was a sadness in her eyes, something that mirrored my own brokenness. "Ethan," she said, her voice steady. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside to let her in, but I didn't say anything. What was there to say? Everything was so complicated now. She closed the door behind her and looked around the small apartment, taking in the empty space. She didn't speak right away. I could tell she was giving me a moment to gather myself, but I couldn't focus on anything except the weight of what was hanging between us. Finally, she turned to me, her gaze unwavering. "I know this has been a lot, Ethan. I know you're angry and hurt. But I need to tell you something." I met her eyes, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything. I just nodded, waiting. "I've always been here," Khloe continued, taking a slow step closer to me. "I know you've been through hell with Sophie, but I'm not her. I've never been her. And I think you know that." She paused, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been in love with you for a long time." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wasn't expecting this, not now, not like this. Khloe had always been Sophie's best friend, the one who kept everything together, who made sure everything went smoothly. But I never saw her like that. I had never thought of her in that way. I looked away from her, running a hand through my hair. "Khloe, this isn't the time." "I know," she interrupted gently. "But I can't keep pretending like I don't feel this way. I care about you, Ethan. And I want to help you get through this. You're not alone." Her words were like a lifeline, something real in a sea of lies and pain. But at the same time they felt like a burden. I couldn't look at her like this, not after everything that had happened with Sophie. My heart was still tied to that betrayal, and I wasn't sure if I could move on. But Khloe was different, she always had been. She wasn't a part of that world. She was my friend, my support. And that meant something. "I don't know if I can love you, Khloe," I said, my voice quiet. "I'm not sure if I can love anyone right now." She took another step closer, her eyes softening. "I'm not asking you to love me. I'm asking you to let me be there for you. I just want to help." Her sincerity hit me harder than I expected. It was a gut punch. I couldn't deny that part of me wanted to let her in, to take her up on her offer. But I was scared of what it meant, scared of what it could do to both of us. "I'm not in a place to do this, Khloe," I said, shaking my head. "I'm not ready for anything like this. I just need time." Khloe nodded, stepping back a little. "I understand. But just so you know, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. Whenever you're ready." The silence between us hung heavy, and I didn't know what to say. My mind was racing, flooded with the choices in front of me. Revenge. Closure. Moving on. And now Khloe's confession. I wanted to push it all away, but part of me knew I couldn't. There was something about her honesty, her unwavering support, that made me think maybe I didn't have to be so alone in this. Khloe reached for my hand, and for the first time in a long time, I let her. She squeezed it gently, and I felt a flicker of warmth in the cold emptiness inside me. "I'll think about it," I said quietly, and for once I meant it. As I looked into her eyes, I felt the smallest glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something else. Something real. Los Angeles. The city of second chances? Or at least, that's what I kept telling myself as the cab pulled up to our new apartment. Khloe had found the place, a small but cozy apartment in the heart of the city. It was nothing special, but it was a place where we could start over, away from everything that had happened in Chicago. Away from Sophie. Away from Derek. I stepped out of the cab and grabbed my bag, still feeling the weight of everything. Moving to LA felt like a fresh start, but the truth was I was running. Running from the mess I'd left behind. I can't believe we're actually here, Khloe said, her voice full of excitement as she bounced up the stairs behind me. New city, new life. Yeah, it's definitely different, I replied, not sure if I was as enthusiastic as she was. My heart wasn't fully in it. Part of me was still tethered to Chicago, to Sophie and Derek. Part of me was still stuck in the past, and I couldn't shake the feeling that no matter where I went, it would follow me. We got inside, and Khloe immediately started unpacking, humming a tune as she organized everything. I wasn't in the mood for it. I had to throw myself into something, and work seemed like the best way to do it. I'm going to head out for a bit, I said, grabbing my jacket. Got some things to do. Khloe looked up from the pile of boxes she was sorting through. Are you sure? You don't have to go right now, Ethan. I'll be fine, I muttered, giving her a quick smile that didn't reach my eyes. She didn't push me. She knew better than to ask. I left the apartment and wandered the streets of LA, trying to clear my head. The city was loud, chaotic, but there was something about it that felt freeing. Maybe it was the anonymity, the fact that I could be anyone here. No one knew who I was. I could be whoever I wanted to be. But no matter how far I walked, no matter how many streets I crossed, I couldn't escape the feeling of Sophie's betrayal. It was like a shadow that followed me, just waiting to strike. I hated it. I hated that I still thought about her. As if on cue, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Sophie. My finger hovered over the screen, debating whether I should even answer. But something inside me made me tap it. Ethan. Her voice crackled through the phone, sounding desperate. Please, we need to talk. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I want us to work things out. I felt my blood boil at the sound of her voice. I wanted to scream, to tell her how much she'd hurt me, how much I hated her for everything she did. But instead I stayed quiet. Sophie, stop, I said, my voice flat. You don't get to fix this. You don't get to come back after everything. You chose Derek. Remember that. I didn't mean for it to happen like that, she said, her voice trembling. Ethan, I love you. I always have. I wanted to throw my phone into the street, but instead I just ended the call. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. I couldn't let her win. Not now. Not ever. When I got back to the apartment, Khloe was sitting on the couch, flipping through a magazine. She looked up at me, a smile on her face, but it quickly faded when she saw my expression. You okay? She asked, concern etched into her voice. Yeah, I lied, slumping down next to her. Just needed some air. She didn't push it, just sitting there quietly beside me. For a while, neither of us spoke. I didn't need words. I just needed someone to be there. Ethan, Khloe finally said, breaking the silence. I know you're going through a lot. And I'm here for you no matter what. But I don't want you to keep running. LA can be a fresh start, but only if you let it be. Her words hit me harder than I expected. She was right. I had been running for so long, from the pain, from the past, from everything that Sophie had done to me. But here I was, in a new city with a chance to finally start over. And yet I couldn't let go. I don't know if I'm ready to move on, I admitted, staring at my hands. I still think about her. About everything that happened. It's like I can't stop seeing her face, hearing her voice. It's messing with my head. Khloe turned toward me, her eyes soft. I get it. I do. But you can't keep letting her control your life. You deserve better than this, Ethan. You deserve someone who will fight for you. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. The words were stuck in my throat. Khloe was right. I didn't want to be stuck in this limbo forever. I wanted to feel free, to feel like I could move forward. But every time I thought I was ready, Sophie's ghost came rushing back. As the days passed, I threw myself into my work. I found success, quickly climbing the ranks at the new company I had joined. It was a distraction, a way to escape. But it worked. For a while it was enough. But Khloe, she was there, always by my side. Slowly I began to see her in a new light. She wasn't just Sophie's best friend anymore. She was someone who had been there for me when I needed her most. She listened to me when I ranted about Sophie, when I said things I didn't mean, when I lashed out in anger. I started to care about her more than I thought I would. But there was still that part of me that felt guilty. I wasn't sure if I was ready to move on, to let go of everything I had with Sophie. "Ethan, I'm here," Khloe said one night, her voice soft as she stood in front of me. "I'm not asking you to forget. I'm just asking you to let me in." Her words struck me deep. I had been shutting her out and I knew it. I didn't know if I could ever love her the way she wanted me to. But she deserved to know that I was trying. "I don't know what I feel," I confessed, my voice low. "But I'm willing to figure it out. With you. If you'll have me." Khloe smiled, her eyes lighting up. "I'll always have you, Ethan." In that moment I realized something. Maybe I wasn't ready to move on completely, but Khloe wasn't asking me to. She was asking me to take a chance. And for the first time in a long time I was ready to take it. Maybe this was the fresh start I'd been looking for after all. It felt almost like watching someone else's life unravel. Like I was standing just outside of it all, watching it crumble from a distance. But that was the point, wasn't it? I wasn't the same guy anymore. The man who once loved Sophie without question, without doubt, that version of me had died the moment I found out about her betrayal. What stood in his place was something else. Someone else. Cold. Calculating. I'd started the plan weeks ago after I first got to LA. Derek didn't know it yet, but the very things he'd used to manipulate and control everyone around him were the same things I was going to use to bring him down. Sophie's desperate calls and messages only pushed me further. She still thought I was her backup plan, her safety net. But that was a delusion. I wasn't going to be anyone's second choice. Khloe didn't say anything, but I could tell she knew what I was doing. She didn't question me when I started digging into Derek's financials, his contacts, and all the things that connected him to the networks he'd used to ruin my life. It was like I had become a machine. I didn't care anymore about right or wrong. I just cared about making sure Derek and Sophie never found peace again. One night, a few weeks in, my phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. I'd been waiting for this. It was the first time she had reached out in days. "Ethan, we need to talk. Please. It's not too late. We can fix this." I stared at the message for a few seconds before deleting it. Felt good though. Letting go. Sophie thought she still had power over me, that I would come running like I had so many times before. Not this time. Khloe came up behind me, looking over my shoulder. "Another one of those?" "Yeah," I muttered, tossing my phone aside. "I'm done with her." Khloe didn't respond right away. Instead, she sat beside me, the silence stretching between us. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It was familiar now. We didn't need words to understand each other anymore. Finally she spoke. "You're going through with it, aren't you? What you've been planning." I didn't look at her. Instead, I picked up a folder from my desk and flipped it open. It's already started. Derek's empire is built on lies, and I'm just making sure everyone knows it. Khloe's gaze stayed on me for a moment longer before she nodded, her voice soft. "Just be careful, Ethan. It's not just Derek you're going after. Sophie's going to be caught in the middle of this too." I didn't need her to remind me. I had already thought about it, about what would happen to Sophie when the truth came out. But this wasn't about her anymore. It wasn't even about Derek anymore. This was about me. About taking back control. The next day, Sophie came to my apartment. I had expected it, but that didn't mean I was ready for it. She knocked on the door, her face pale, eyes desperate. "Ethan," she said as soon as I opened it, her voice shaky. "Please just listen to me. I know what I did was wrong, but I can fix this. I can fix us." I stood there watching her, feeling absolutely nothing. The girl I once loved was standing in front of me, pleading for my forgiveness. But I knew what she was really asking for. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was asking for control again. And I wasn't about to give it to her. "I don't need you to fix anything," I said flatly, stepping aside so she could come in. "The only thing you can do now is stay out of my way." She took a step back like I had slapped her. Her voice cracked as she tried to speak, but I cut her off. "You don't get to come back into my life just because it's convenient for you," I said. "You made your choice. Now deal with the consequences." I could see the realization hit her. The hollow look in her eyes told me she understood. She wasn't going to win me back. Not this time. "I don't need to hear your apologies," I continued. "What's done is done. Go fix things with Derek. You two can rot in the mess you made together." Her face twisted with a mixture of anger and hurt, but I didn't care. She turned to leave, but as she reached the door, she stopped. "I was never going to be with him," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I never stopped loving you." I didn't answer. I just watched her leave. There was no satisfaction in it, no relief. There was just an empty space where the love I once had for her used to be. As soon as Sophie left, I picked up my phone and made a few calls. It was time for the last piece of the plan to fall into place. I watched as Derek's world slowly began to unravel. His shady deals, his lies, everything he'd hidden in plain sight. The media caught on, and soon enough, his reputation was in tatters. People started pulling their investments, his network of contacts turned their backs on him. It didn't take long for his company to collapse. By the time it all fell apart, I had no joy in it. No triumph. It was just the ending of a story I had no part in anymore. I could feel it though, the quiet satisfaction. The knowledge that Derek and Sophie had destroyed their own lives. They were never going to get back what they lost. That night, Khloe and I sat together on the balcony watching the city lights flicker below. She didn't say anything, just rested her head on my shoulder. I wasn't sure what I was feeling, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a little bit lighter. Maybe this was the beginning of something else. Something real. The past was over. The future, whatever it held, was mine to control. I leaned back in the chair, watching the latest headlines flash across my phone screen. Derek's name was all over the news. His company was in shambles, and the once gilded empire he built was crumbling before my eyes. I should have felt some kind of satisfaction, but instead, all I could feel was this emptiness gnawing at me. I had won. But at what cost? I glanced over at Khloe, who was sitting on the couch, her arms crossed tightly in front of her. She hadn't said much since the news broke. The tension between us had been building for weeks, and now it felt like it was reaching a breaking point. She was quiet, too quiet. "Khloe," I said, finally breaking the silence, "we did it. Derek's gone. He got exactly what he deserved." She didn't respond right away. I could see her fingers tapping nervously on the armrest, her eyes focused on the floor. The tension in the room was thick, like we were on the edge of something that was about to crack wide open. "You're really okay with this, aren't you?" Khloe finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of course I am," I said, the words coming out more forcefully than I intended. He was a liar. A manipulator. He deserved everything he got. Khloe's eyes lifted to meet mine, and for the first time in a long time, I saw something in her eyes that I didn't recognize. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even disappointment. It was something darker, something like fear. "I don't know, Ethan," she said softly. "I don't know if this is who you really are." Her words hit me like a punch. My chest tightened, and for a moment I couldn't speak. I had spent so much time focused on taking Derek down that I hadn't even noticed how much I was pushing Khloe away. She had always been there for me, but now I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing her. "You're just going to walk away from me now?" I asked, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. "After everything we've been through?" She stood up, her face a mixture of frustration and confusion. "It's not that simple. I've been here for you, Ethan. But I don't know who you've become. You've changed." "I did what I had to do," I said, my voice growing louder. "Derek hurt me, Khloe. He destroyed everything I cared about. And now he's gone. Is it really worth it?" Khloe shot back. "Look at what it's doing to you. You've spent all this time trying to get revenge, but what about us? What about me?" I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "I'm doing this for us. For me," I said, more to myself than to her. "I don't know who I am anymore, Khloe. I don't know what's left." There was a long silence, and for a moment I thought she might leave. But instead, she shook her head, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You're not the man I knew, Ethan," she whispered, her voice breaking. "And I don't know if I can keep doing this with you." I stood up, my heart racing. "What are you saying? That you're going to leave me?" Khloe took a step back, her expression filled with pain. "I don't know what else to do. I don't know how to help you when you're so lost in this anger." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had spent so long focusing on destroying Derek, thinking that would fix everything. But in the end, all it had done was create a chasm between me and the one person who had stood by me through it all. "I'm not angry," I said, my voice trembling. I'm just done. Done being the victim. Done letting people walk all over me." "Ethan," she said softly, "you're not a victim. But you've become someone I don't recognize. I don't want to lose you, but I can't stand by and watch you destroy yourself." I stood there, frozen. She was right. I had spent so much time seeking vengeance that I hadn't realized how much I was changing. How much I was losing. I felt a cold knot tighten in my chest, and the realization hit me harder than any punch ever could. This revenge, this endless pursuit of justice, had cost me more than I could ever repay. It wasn't just Derek I had destroyed, it was me too. Before I could say anything else, my phone rang. I glanced down at the screen and my heart sank. It was Marcus Voss. Derek's friend, The man who had always been lurking in the background, watching and waiting for the right moment. I hesitated for only a second before answering the call. Ethan, Marcus's voice came through low and dangerous. You thought Derek's fall was the end of it, didn't you? Marcus, I said, my voice cold. What do you want? I want you to understand something, he said. You may have taken down Derek, but you've made a powerful enemy. You think your little plan has won you some peace? You're wrong. This is far from over. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I didn't let it show. Do your worst, Marcus. I'm not afraid of you. He laughed, a low, mocking sound. We'll see, Ethan. We'll see. The call ended, and I stood there for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. My chest was tight, my hands clenched into fists. I had destroyed Derek's life, but in doing so, I had created a new enemy. Someone even more dangerous. And the worst part? I didn't know if I had the strength to fight it. Khloe was right. I had achieved my revenge, but at what cost? I had lost her. I had lost myself. And I couldn't help but wonder if it was worth it. Ethan, I need some space, Khloe said, her voice distant, filled with regret. I'm sorry, but I can't keep doing this. And just like that, she was gone. I knew this was coming. I felt it in every quiet moment, in every tense conversation that was left unsaid. But when Khloe finally told me she was leaving, it still hit like a punch to the gut. I should have seen it. I should have known that my obsession with revenge, with tearing down Derek, was pushing her away. But I didn't. Ethan, she said one evening, her voice quiet but firm. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep watching you destroy yourself. I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. I just stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. My chest tightened and I could feel the lump in my throat forming. But I wasn't about to beg her to stay. I couldn't. I had already lost her and I knew it. You're not the person I fell for anymore, Khloe continued, her voice wavering slightly. And I'm not asking you to change. I'm asking you to realize that you've pushed me away. You've pushed everyone away. Khloe, please, I started, but she held up her hand, cutting me off. No, she said, shaking her head. You've had your chance. And I can't keep waiting for you to come back to the person you used to be. Her voice broke and I could see the tears in her eyes. I need to move on. I need to find peace. And I can't do that while you're drowning in anger. I swallowed hard, the guilt crashing over me in waves. I'm sorry, I whispered, the words feeling too small for the weight of what I'd done. She didn't say anything else. She just stood there for a moment, watching me as if making sure I understood. Then, without another word, she grabbed her bag and walked out the door. The silence that followed was deafening. I stared at the door for what felt like hours, feeling the loss in every fiber of my being. Khloe had been the one constant, the one person who truly cared about me. And I had let my obsession with revenge ruin it. I didn't know how long I stood there, but eventually I collapsed onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. What had I done? I had pushed away the one person who loved me, the one person who had been there for me when I needed her most. I thought about calling her, begging her to come back, but I knew deep down it wouldn't make a difference. I had to face this alone. I had to face the consequences of my actions. But that didn't mean I was going to give up. I spent the next few days in a haze, trying to focus on anything but the aching emptiness in my chest. I threw myself into work, keeping my mind occupied, but the truth was I couldn't stop thinking about Khloe. And when I wasn't thinking about her, I was thinking about the man I had become, the man I didn't recognize anymore. I needed help. I needed to talk to someone. And that's when I called my mom. Ethan, she said, her voice warm with concern when she picked up the phone. I'm so glad you called. How are you? I don't know, Mom, I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. I messed up. I lost Khloe and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know who I am anymore. Sweetheart, she said softly, it's okay. It's okay to feel lost. But you need to understand something. You can't fix everything by tearing others down. You have to start with yourself. I don't even know where to begin, I admitted, feeling like I was falling apart. I've hurt so many people. And I've hurt myself too. My mom sighed on the other end of the line. You've made mistakes, Ethan. But that doesn't mean you're beyond redemption. You have to forgive yourself first before you can move forward. And that means letting go of the anger. I don't know if I can, I said quietly. I've spent so long holding on to it, letting it consume me. I don't know how to let go. It's not going to happen overnight, she said, her voice gentle. But it starts with a choice. A choice to do better. A choice to heal. You can't change the past, but you can decide what kind of person you want to be moving forward. I was silent for a long time, processing her words. Part of me wanted to wallow in my regret, to stay stuck in my anger and bitterness. But another part of me knew she was right. If I kept holding on to the past, I'd lose everything else. I'll try, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I'll try to change. For me. For Khloe. For everyone I've hurt. My mom's voice softened, full of love and understanding. That's all I can ask, Ethan. Take it one step at a time. After hanging up with my mom, I felt a small sense of relief. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe I could still fix things. But I knew it wasn't going to be easy. The path to redemption would be long and full of hard choices. I sat on the couch thinking about Khloe. I missed her more than I ever thought possible, but I knew I couldn't expect her to come back. Not until I proved to myself, and to her, that I could be the person I used to be. It wouldn't happen overnight, but I was ready to start. One step at a time. Maybe, just maybe, I could find a way to forgive myself. And maybe in the process I could earn Khloe's forgiveness too. But for now I had to let go of the past. It was the only way forward. The heat of Miami's night was thick, oppressive. The city hummed with energy, but for me, it felt like everything around me had gone silent. I stood in front of the building waiting. I had known this moment was coming. Marcus had been sending cryptic messages for weeks, and Derek, well, I could almost feel him lurking in the background watching my every move. But I wasn't the same man I had been when this all started. I'd been angry, consumed by a need for revenge that twisted inside me like a knife. I'd let it control everything. But now, standing here, I wasn't sure if any of it had been worth it. You're sure about this? Khloe had asked me earlier. I could still hear the uncertainty in her voice. Ethan, do you really want to go through with this? I had told her I needed to do this. I needed to face them. But part of me knew that wasn't true anymore. I didn't need to face them. I didn't need to keep holding on to all this anger. The door to the building opened and Derek stepped out first. He looked different, no longer the confident man who had tried to break me. His posture was rigid, and the arrogance that once defined him was gone. Beside him, Marcus stood, his usual smirk now replaced with a look of cold calculation. They thought this would be the moment they could crush me. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Ethan, Derek's voice came out flat, lacking the usual smugness. I see you finally come out of hiding. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I took a long breath, gathering my thoughts. This wasn't about him. This wasn't about Marcus. This was about me. I was done with the fight. Derek, I said, my voice calm, almost detached. You wanted to tear me down. You wanted to watch me burn. But what you didn't realize was that all I had to do was stop caring. You never had control over me, Derek. Not really. Not anymore. Derek's face twisted into something between frustration and disbelief. You really think you've won? That this is over? I stepped closer, my eyes steady on him. It's over because I've already won. Not through anything you did, but by walking away. You see, that's what you never understood. I don't need to destroy you. You've already destroyed yourself. I could see it then, the realization in Derek's eyes. He had thought this was about power, about control. But he had lost everything because he had built his life on lies and manipulation. And I didn't need to keep fighting to prove I was better than him. I had walked away from his game, and that was the real victory. Marcus shifted, stepping forward, his gaze hard. You think you're the only one who's suffered, Ethan? You think you're the only one who's had to make sacrifices? I looked at him, my anger not rising like it once would have. Instead, I just felt numb. No, Marcus. I think you're the one who's still fighting. You're still holding on to this idea that revenge and power mean something. But it's just a cycle. You'll never be free of it until you let go. Marcus's lips curled into a bitter smile. You're pathetic. I didn't flinch. I just looked at him, really looked at him. You're right. I'm pathetic for having let this go on as long as I did. But I'm not pathetic for letting go. That's where you're wrong. Derek's eyes flicked to Marcus, who didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He knew the same truth I did. I had already won. Not because of anything I'd done to them, but because I had chosen to stop playing their game. For a long moment, there was silence between us. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it was charged with something new. Something neither Derek nor Marcus could understand. They were stuck in their own cycle of anger, but I had broken free. You've changed, Ethan, Derek finally said, his voice quieter now. You're not the same guy who used to care. You're not the same guy who wanted to burn everything down. No, I said, my voice steady. I'm not. I looked at both of them one last time. The anger I had felt earlier was gone. The resentment, the thirst for revenge, it all felt so insignificant now. This was my closure, my peace. Not in destroying them, but in walking away from everything they stood for. You should go, I said, the words coming easily now. And don't come back. They didn't respond. They didn't need to. Marcus turned and walked away, and Derek followed. The silence that followed their departure was almost soothing. It wasn't victory. It wasn't defeat. It was just done. I stood there for a long time, the weight of everything lifting off my shoulders. I had been so consumed by anger, by the need for revenge, that I had forgotten to live. But now, as I watched them leave, I realized I didn't need to hold on to that anymore. Khloe was waiting for me when I returned to the apartment. I didn't need to explain myself. She could see it in my eyes. I had found something I had been searching for all along. Closure. I did it, I said quietly, standing in front of her. She nodded, her eyes soft with understanding. You did. I felt the weight of the past, all the anger and hurt, finally lifting. I wasn't the same person I had been when I started this journey. I wasn't the man driven by revenge anymore. I was someone who had learned to let go, to move forward. And for the first time, I didn't feel alone.